It's time for the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, Agent ETA,
Agent Ether,
and Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. We also have an email address, alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to check us out on other social media platforms such as Reddit and Discord. This week's episode, Number Stations.
Hell yeah.
This is such a fun topic. Originally, we were thinking about doing a double header because I was worried that there wouldn't be enough to do for number stations, but boy was I wrong.
Yeah, before I started looking into this, I didn't really know. Well, I was aware of them because I'd heard them or seen them mentioned like in documentaries and stuff like that. But like I had no idea like how deep this topic goes. You know, it's there's a hell of a lot out there.
We could do a whole episode on just the buzz, like just that one number station. And it's not even really a number station. We could do a whole episode just on that one. It's crazy. But all right, hold on. I got to switch my soundboard over here. Imagine you're just sitting around in your cabin in the woods, minding your own business. It's nighttime. You got a fire roaring in the fireplace. And it's been a long day of squatching out there or whatever you're doing, hunting, whichever. And you're turning on your ham radio, maybe to chat with some buds or whatever. You're just scanning the dials and you come across this.
Now I want some ice cream.
Yep, pretty much.
So it's hard to hear, but it's definitely numbers.
Yeah, it's German numbers.
Oh, it's German numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like a child.
Swedish Rhapsody?
Yep, this is the Swedish Rhapsody station.
It sounded like a child to me, like a young boy.
This episode is Number Stations. I guess a lot of people have probably heard of these, but some people haven't. If you're unfamiliar, and just imagine like you heard that, you're listening to some amateur radio type stuff, and you heard that, you're like, what in the hell am I listening to? What is this stuff? And that one, I'll talk a little bit more about that one in a bit. There's like a whole amateur radio spectrum that it's sort of shared with military and other uses, but you can actually go out there with your own equipment and listen to these stations. That particular one is no longer running, but there are still quite a few of these number stations out there that are still broadcasting on a regular schedule. So you can hear them for yourselves. In fact, I recorded one earlier today just for S's and G's. I wanted to see if I could go out there and find the recording. And I did. I found that supposedly it was broadcasting 24/7. I was like, all right, let's see if I can find it. And I found it. So I did that. And
which one was it?
That was the buzz. So not only can you listen to these, but you don't even have to have your own radio equipment anymore, because I'll put a link in the description maybe, but there's a website you can go to that will allow you to monitor the radio's frequencies from your computer if you have the internet. It's really cool. It gives you like a waterfall display, so you can see like all the spectrums at once to see where the activity is. You don't even have to like search with the dial or a scan function.
It's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, you can just see where the action is, and you can just go and listen to whichever channel looks like it's active at that time. And you can find all sorts of weird stuff out there.
Yeah.
on all these different frequencies. I don't know if you found this. I forgot the website's name, but I'm definitely going to link it because I guarantee you somebody listening to this right now is going to want to play around with this because it's badass. It is so cool.
Yeah, it's something you can't necessarily, I mean, you can't interact with it, but you can go listen to it yourself, in real time.
Yeah.
And like very rarely do you have a subject recovering on this podcast where you can actually do that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty damn cool. And also like what it's been used for in the past too is I think pretty damn interesting as well, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, so I just went on some of these websites and I just went and scanned some of these radio wave stations or radio frequencies, and I probably did this for about 20 minutes just listening to different signals that I could find. And I didn't do this with any particular reference or any goal to look at anything. It was just a completely random look at what I could observe at that time with this website, and I cut down that 20 minutes to about a minute and a half of stuff that I thought kind of sounded weird or interesting or whatever. So I'll play that right now. This is not a number station. This is just stuff that I found out there on the radio waves.
Yankee Tango Tango, please. Copy 5-9. Good signal, Puerto Rico, over. We took the bottom of it off.
Yeah, no problem at all. Oh, wat erg.
As approved earlier by the Center for Economics at
Australia, but still.
I don't know. It's not a number station, but it could still be some sort of code that you need like some sort of computer algorithm in order to translate it and decrypt it.
Oh yeah, well,
or it could be fake. There's a lot of fake ones out there.
Well, there's been a lot of really intricate transmissions through these means throughout the years, especially with within intelligence groups and communicating to spies or agents, whatever. There's actually been cases where they've sent stuff over shortwave that was encrypted, but it was actual like street noise that they used the natural noises that they recorded from just a random street to encrypt information. Like untraceable, just plain untraceable. You can't crack something like that.
Well, it's interesting about number stations in general is that you don't know who's receiving them. It could be anyone. Yeah. There's no way to track it because anybody could be listening. And even as far as who's transmitting, if it's halfway across the world, you need to triangulate that. That's going to be difficult. And even if you do, you're going to see a transmitter. You're not going to see a person. You're going to find out where it's being transmitted from, not necessarily who's transmitting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that these number stations have been used for quite some time for governments to communicate with, their intelligence agents out there in the field and stuff. And it's amazing how how old this technology is, but also it's still being used to this day for that very purpose, for as far as I can tell,
Well, pretty much as soon as radios were invented at the turn of the century, they've been using them to communicate in terms of I would say during World War I is the earliest time. And usually it would be Morse code, like what we just heard, or, simple substitution ciphers like you used to do maybe with your friends when you were in grade school. But anybody can intercept those, and they're pretty easy to crack. So that's where cryptography comes in. And the easiest, what they did was they had these trench codes, and they were simple phrases or words, and you could only use a key code book in order to decrypt them. But of course, the problem is if you get captured and somebody steals your code book, then they're going to be able to listen in on the troop movements.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a lot of well-documented history throughout World War I and II when it comes to this type of thing. But I mean, when it really started to get...
Where'd you go there, ETA? I think ETA dipped out there.
Well, let's wait a moment. I have to go return this to its proper place anyway.
All right. Maybe more technical difficulties. But yeah, so as you were saying, as Ether was saying, there's various types of cryptography and encryption and stuff, and there are some signals that you can actually intercept. That here's from ETA here. He's his computer just shut off on him, so we'll see. Oh, he's got a Windows update right in the middle of a show. Windows. This is what I'm talking about. This is why my next computer for audio will not be a Windows machine, because it's unbelievable that they would update you like that in the middle of you working on something without giving you some sort of warning or option to say, wait, don't do this right now. They just do it. They say, all right, boom, done, sucker.
Well, I have a little monologue I could do about the Vernum.
Okay, before you do that, I wanted to play one more file that I found. So this is actually an encrypted message, and this is it's sort of like a digital encrypted message, and this is from the French Navy, and this is an example of what you would do to encrypt a message, but this requires a lot of equipment to decrypt it at the other side. This is not something you can do by hand, and this is what like a digitally encrypted signal may sound like. Here we go.
Sounds so sci-fi.
It's weird, right?
But it sounds like Star Trek-y or something.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going at like warp 10, you know? Or,
yeah, exactly.
It's so weird. But there's a ton of signals like that you can find that are some sort of encrypted data. Maybe it might just be like an old modem type sound that's, not necessarily encrypted, but it's in a digital format that you cannot readily decode without the software or whatever. But encrypting it the old school way, all you really need is a cheap radio to receive that, because the way radio waves work is that they'll transmit on a certain frequency that can actually propagate around the entire planet under the right conditions, or at least a very, very far, like thousands of miles at the very least. So you could have an agent somewhere. All they need is like a cheap little $10 or $20 radio, and they can receive that message. And there's no way of tracking who is receiving the message. You can track who's sending it, but not who's receiving it.
Yeah. And I read online that besides espionage, they think that maybe it's the drug cartel using it, which I thought was really interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that, or maybe other criminal and nefarious activities.
And some number stations are actually suspected to be hoaxers or pirate radio or whatever, that are just kind of putting it up as a gag. But those are in the minority, actually. There's only some of those. Most of them they're at least speculated to be from a particular government or other.
And we're talking about shortwave radio specifically, which is high frequency. And I think that's what you want to use because it's transmitted further, right? With very low power.
Yeah, well, so actually, this is kind of cool because I started reading about number stations, and Agent Redacted, I was telling him a little bit about it, and he got interested in this stuff. And now we are studying for our amateur radio licenses that we're going to go get that so we can actually, broadcast on this stuff, or not technically not broadcast, but use it to communicate. But it depends quite a lot on the atmospheric frequencies. Like during the day, the sun will heat up or charge the ionosphere, and then certain wavelengths will travel better than others, and then some will get absorbed. Then at night, other ones will travel better than they do during the day. So I still am not 100% up to speed on which wavelengths are better than others, but you're looking at probably the high frequency bands for what we're talking about generally. So high frequency is going to be HF is 3 to 30 megahertz. So under 30 megahertz, frequency, and then 30 to 300 is VHF, and then 300 to 3000 is UHF, and then you're
ultra high frequency.
Yeah, you're getting to really short wavelengths at that point. So the ones that propagate the best long distance is probably the HF frequencies, that is under 30 megahertz frequency. And you're talking about potentially very, very long wavelengths, like 60 meters or 140 meters or whatever, like really big waves. Because remember, radio waves travel at the speed of light. So you can go, you don't have to be that high of a frequency to get these waves like very big, because it's traveling very fast.
Right.
All right, Agent Ether. That was my little radio rant. What do you got for us there?
Well, I wanted to talk about the Vernum cipher specifically.
Okay.
Because I think when you're talking about the Cold War and espionage, number stations definitely peaked during that time. And when the Berlin Wall fell, when the Soviet Union collapsed, you saw a big decrease in the number of number stations that were transmitting around the world. So it goes back to 1919 when a patent was issued to one Gilbert Vernum for the use of his XOR operation in the encryption of one-time pads. That's a lot of detail, so let me break it up.
Yeah, whoa, slow down there, Turbo.
And these type of ciphers are Vernum ciphers. So specifically, the XOR operation, it's this Boolean function that acts on binary numbers that encrypts a string of numbers. So if you have two input bits, and if they are the same, the result's 0, and if they are different, the result's 1. For example, if you have a number and it's 0, and the second number is 1, those are different numbers, so the XOR operator will spit out a 1. But if both the numbers you're inputting are a 1, then the XOR operator spits out a 0. The XOR operator is important when you use this one-time pad. So to set up an encrypted message during the war, two people would need a code book, and this code is actually going to be unbreakable under most circumstances. So you'd use this one-time pad, and you would send a Vernum cipher, and you would need a string of letters. Each letter is assigned a numerical value. For example, A could be 14. This value would be converted to its binary form, and then you would use a keyword to combine it with the message you want to send, both of them in binary, and use the XOR operator. And then the person receiving the encryption has to do this in reverse, but they can only do it if they have the keyword. So as a simple example, this is not a Vernum cipher. This is just kind of an example of how it would work. If, you have the letter A, that's the first letter of the alphabet, so that's 1. And if your keyword is a D, which is the fourth letter of the alphabet, it has a value of 4. So if you add them together, you get 5, and you would transmit that number, but whoever's receiving that number has no way of knowing which letter of the alphabet it's going to correspond to, unless they know the keyword D is equal to 4. So to decrypt the number, you would subtract 4 from 5 and get 1. You would look in your code book and see that the number 1 corresponds to A. And maybe that means all clear. Or maybe that means shoot to kill. You don't know. And you have no way of knowing unless you have the keyword. So there's lots of great examples on YouTube. They're visual, which I think are much easier to understand, at least to me, because when you're hearing it versus when you're seeing it, I mean, when you have your code book, it's something physical that you're looking at. So again, go on YouTube, look at some simple examples. They're really cool. In the real world, true Vernum ciphers, you have to convert all the numbers to binary in order for it to be encrypted. And there's some downsides to the method. Like I said before, your code book can be stolen. And this keyword has to be as long as the message itself. Exactly. And it needs to be completely random. Otherwise, it's like reusing your password online, and somebody might be able to guess your keyword. And as far as it being stolen, that's exactly what happened between 1945 and 1956. The CIA and the British Secret Service were sending agents into the Soviet Union. they were captured along with their code books, and the Russians would then use the code books to transmit false messages, and they lured more agents into their country and captured them as well.
That's like something from a Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon or something.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
You're like, no. I don't know. I read it, so it must mean it happened. Let's see what I have here, too. I have a 1998 article in the Daily Telegraph, which quoted a spokesperson for the Department of Trade and Industry, the government that regulates radio broadcasting. And they said these number stations are what you suppose they are. People shouldn't be mystified by them. They are not, shall we say, however, for public consumption. And yet people have made a hobby out of listening and trying to understand what these number stations are.
Yeah, there is some surprising dedication to this. I was reading about one number station earlier, The Buzz, and there was a blog written by this guy, just one guy, and he had notes for each year, like starting in 2012 or 2010 or something, and he would just monitor it all the time and take notes when he noticed something on the station. And we'll get to this station later, but it's just it's a buzz.
I just thought that was an interesting quote, because for the most part, governments will deny that they're using number stations, especially before the collapse of the Soviet Union. They wouldn't even talk about it in terms of espionage. But in 1998, there was the first case in which a government was officially accused of using number stations to transmit to spies, and a huge group was arrested. They were a WASP network from Cuba, and the U.S. prosecutors said the transmissions came from the Atención station in Cuba, and the FBI got a hold of their computer decryption program they were using to decode a number station, and were able to read the messages and prosecute. And some of the messages were, let's see, under no circumstances should agents German nor Castor fly with the BTTR or any other organization on days 24, 25, 26, and 27.
So what's the BTTR?
It's an anti-Castro airborne group, Brothers to the Rescue.
Okay. Oh, I think I remember hearing about this. Yeah, they had their codes. This is the one where their codes were in soap?
Yeah.
It's like something out of a movie. That's crazy. There's probably some kind of joke there about soap and agents and keeping it clean or something.
Number stations have been in some movies, though.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. They have movies, TV shows, video games. Boards of Canada on their Geo Gadai album used number stations.
Right. Love Boards of Canada.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
You remember
Excellent.
that counting on there? That's number stations.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a famous video game. What was it? Black Ops or something. I haven't played that game, but I saw people, when I was doing research for this case, I saw people referencing that constantly. Like, what is the line? I forget what the line is, but people were saying a line from the video game. I'm like, what are these people talking about? And then I looked it up eventually. I'm like, oh, that's what those people were talking about. It's from the video game. Also from certain TV shows like Lost, for example. I don't know if you remember, it wasn't exactly a number station. It was just repeating the time or whatever.
I do remember that vaguely.
But it was, that idea is sort of based on a number station. So it actually has permeated popular culture. And it's sort of interesting, like, even though we kind of know what they are, or definitely know what most of them are, at least we can make educated guesses if we don't know for sure. They sort of capture the imagination of a lot of people because they just sound so weird, and I think the reason for that is a couple of reasons. First of all, you have like these robotic synthesized voices in most cases. Some of them are actually read by people, but most of them are these synthesized voices that sound almost human, but just a little bit off. It's sort of like that uncanny valley sort of a thing, where if it's close enough to human, but you can identify that it's not, then it becomes really creepy, and I'm sure that's the technical definition for uncanny valley, right?
It makes sense to do that, though, because you don't want to give any clue as to what country, what purpose, that sort of thing, if it's for espionage specifically.
Well, in fact, some of them have used stuff to intentionally disguise where it was coming from, and I'll talk about a prominent example later.
Well, they're still in use all over the world, from North Korea to Egypt.
Oh yeah, and
Like every country.
there was an uptick with the Ukrainian war too.
Really?
Yeah, there's tons of them being used right now. Perhaps more than ever before.
I doubt that since
Yeah.
the height of the Cold War.
Well, yeah, I doubt that too. Are you finished over there?
Yeah,
Agent
yeah,
Ether?
I'm
Yeah.
all
Okay.
finished.
Well, we'll get to some specific number stations. And one thing that I wanted to do was that I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to play some more examples, because I've listened to shows about number stations before, and they would play like one or two examples, but they wouldn't really play that many examples, or they wouldn't play longer examples. So it might kind of get a little bogged down at some point, but I'm trying to keep it under 2 minutes for each example. But I just wanted to hear more of them. When I was listening to the shows I was listening to, I was like, well, play a little bit more of those. I want to hear more. And instead they would have like 2 or 3 examples. So I try to do a few more examples than that, and then we can just sort of talk about them. Give me just a second. So first I'll talk a little bit about the one I played at the beginning, which was the Swedish Rhapsody. And that's a station that was operated out of Poland, and it was operated by the Ministry of Public Security. And it was between the 1950s and 2007. So that one was running for a long time. And what sounds like the voice of a child is actually a machine known as the Sprachmorse generator. And I guess they modified it, like they pitched it up to where it's higher pitched than normal. And it sounds kind of like a child's voice, but not really, which makes it like really creepy, because like some people get creeped out by kids, like they're in horror movies and stuff, like singing, Ring Around the Rosies. Like I always thought that was silly because kids aren't scary.
I don't know. I find the number station with the kid really creepy.
Yeah, but the reason why that one sounds so creepy is because it almost sounds like a kid, but not quite. It doesn't really sound like a kid, but it kind of does. Sounds like a little girl almost, but not quite.
Well, and you're picturing some little kid somewhere like sitting in a chair in like a dark room just reading off numbers.
In front of a microphone, yeah.
A microphone.
Just sitting there, 3 times a week or whatever it was. But yeah, that one, the reason I started with that one is because that was like the creepiest one to me, was the Swedish Rhapsody. There's actually 2 different versions of the Swedish Rhapsody, and the more modern or the more recent version has just like a woman's voice. It just sounds like a semi-robotic woman's voice. It's not like the kid's voice anymore. But the song used on that station is not actually the Swedish Rhapsody, but the Luxembourg polka, and it's played from a music box. The station followed a very rigid schedule with very few interruptions or mistakes. Some of these stations they'll have interruptions or mistakes, or the schedule, when it'll happen every Wednesday at 8:00, and then it won't happen for some reason. Like the operators forgot to press the button, or there was some kind of malfunction or something. This one didn't have that many malfunctions, apparently. I don't know. It's not running anymore, so I can't verify that myself, but that's just what I read on the internet, and the internet never lies. All right, let's get to this example is probably the one you're going to hear the most commonly. Every single show and every single website I looked at references this one, and this is the good old Lincolnshire poacher, and it has the Enigma code E03. So somebody came up with like a station naming system. The European Numbers Information Gathering and Monitoring Association, or Enigma for short, came up with a way of categorizing these different number stations, and they would give like E03 would be a station in English, and it was the 3rd one in the catalog in English. And you can go to different websites and they all use these codes, like E3A. That would be a variation on E3, or E7 or whatever. So it makes it pretty easy to catalog these and to sort of cross-reference things or whatever. So it's a really cool system. So the Lincolnshire poacher, E03, let's give that one a listen.
This is the one that always broadcasts, right? Like 7 days a week, like multiple times a day.
I don't think this one's going anymore.
No, but when it was.
ETA's back. So that's just a shorter clip of a much longer portion. Let me finish up the Lincolnshire poacher there, ETA, and then you can go on your rant, I guess. But
I'm so fucking pissed right now, dude.
this is so this was broadcast beginning sometime in the 70s, possibly earlier, and it was transmitted from England, and then at some point they started transmitting it from Cyprus, the island Cyprus instead, not Cypress Hill, but the island of Cyprus. And it begins with the tune from the folk song, The Lincolnshire Poacher, played on what sounds sort of like a calliope machine or something. And the message repeated for 45 minutes on 3 simultaneous frequencies. And it broadcast 10 times a day. And it broadcast 18 different messages each month. 9 the first 14 days and 9 the second 14 days, roughly speaking. And it stopped broadcasting in 2008. So just to give you an idea of just how effective, easy to use, and useful these things are, they use this from the 70s all the way until, so I don't know, 40 years, give or take, like a really long time they used this station. And that is probably the most commonly cited one is the Lincolnshire Poacher. The only reason we know about the Swedish Rhapsody, we know the details, is because declassified documents in 2014 revealed who was operating it, and that it used a one-time pad. Oh yeah, here we go. So it stopped operating in 1991 with the fall of the Soviet Union, but began again from 1998 to 2007, and it was used for NATO agents in Eastern Europe. And like I said, the newer version uses a voice, a different type of voice that's closer to the one used by the CIA in their number stations, or maybe the exact same voice, as some people say. All right, so let's get to the next number station I have prepared. In my notes, I called it the bus because my Z key is broken, as I said earlier.
Instead of the buzz.
Instead of the buzz, yeah.
Wait,
my Z.
what's the Z key?
It's the thing on the keyboard that you press to make the letter Z show up on your screen. So anyways.
You're look, when I heard you say that, like I registered it as something like a kazuki. You ever had a kazuki?
Yeah.
Like one of those.
Yeah,
Pazuki, whatever the hell it was. Like
I used to work
I
at
put Z
BJ's.
and key like as one word together. Yeah. Those things are delicious.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like, I heard Ziki. I was like, what the fuck is a Ziki?
I was like, I don't understand what the confusion is. It's the thing on the keyboard. I do not understand the question.
That's a momentary lapse in judgment, but enjoyable all the same.
Yeah, that's hilarious. All right. So anyways, the buzz. I actually recorded this one this morning. You can find recordings online, but I thought it'd be fun to fire up that radio website and record it myself, because why not? Oh yeah, by the way, the cool thing about these websites is most of them have a button you can press to record whatever it is you're monitoring. So cool.
And easy.
That's where I got all those excerpts and whatnots. So all right, here we go. Here's the buzz. Let's see, what button did I put this on? Button 4.
Sounds like a ship, almost
All right, and that's
like one of those ink blot tests, like what kind of personality you have. Are you a sociopath? What does this number station mean to you?
so it's technically not really a numbers, kind of. It is sort of, it's debatable as whether or not it's like a traditional number station, but it'll buzz like that. And I found a blog from like 2010 that said like since like decades, it's only had a message come up like once or twice, like since the origination of it. But that might just be that's what people noticed. But anyways, it'll buzz like that for like a really long time, by some reports even like a year, and then there will be a ton of activity sometimes. But the messages on this station are pretty few and far between, apparently. It just buzzes most of the time. The station is located in Russia, and it's some people think that it's used to reserve a frequency so that when they need to transmit on that frequency, nobody else is on there because they're basically jamming that frequency all the time. So essentially you can't transmit on that frequency because there's a buzzing noise on there. So whatever you say is going to...
It keeps people away from it.
Yeah, exactly. So once in a great while, it's interrupted by a Russian voice transmission, and it began broadcasting in the 70s, and it's still going today. So this one is going for a long time. The call station that the sign uses has changed throughout the years, but it began as UZB-76, but it's often referred to, I think because of like a mistranslation from the Russian alphabet or whatever, as UVB. So if you're Googling this one, you want to Google UVB-76, the buzzer station. There are sometimes variation in the timing of the buzzes, like they'll change the timing will vary a little bit. And some people think this might be a way of sending a coded message. Like we mentioned earlier, there are any number of ways to encode data. Your creativity is the only limit on how you can encode data that somebody else can pick up on. The pitch will also change on occasion as well, but people think that has more to do with the buzz being generated by a mechanical device rather than some sort of internally or digitally generated signal. The voice interruptions follow a fixed format. For example, one format is known as monolith and consists of call signs of 4 digits read twice, 5-digit ID groups, message blocks each consisting of 1 code word and 8 digits. Now, one of the weird things about this station is that it appears to be like most of these number stations seem like they're just like a tape loop somewhere, just kind of, attached to a transmitter, just kind of transmitting. And it doesn't seem that there really needs to be anybody monitoring it or whatever. But the buzz station appears to be basically like some sort of noise generating device, like a tone wheel or something, that's just sort of placed in front of a microphone.
Yeah, with the open microphone.
Yeah, the microphone is open all the time. And the reason they think this is because from time to time, you'll hear distant conversations and background noise. And you can Google some of these. Like, for example, there are some screams heard on occasion. And some people think that these screams are probably just like a different station broadcasting screams on the same frequency to sort of mess with people. But I tell you what, I dare you guys to go Google UVB-76, the buzz screams. And I dare you to go listen to that. I'll just say that much. They're pretty damn...
I would, but I'm afraid my Windows would crash.
Yeah, I know, right? It's pretty damn creepy. Other people speculate that the background noise could be that like a microphone gets turned on by accident on some occasions. Some examples of conversations that have been heard. For example, on November 3rd, 2001, part of a conversation was heard, and it said, translated from Russian, it said, "I am not receiving the generator, and that stuff comes from the hardware room." Was just a little fragment of the conversation that they heard, because it was in the distance, I guess. You couldn't really pick up everything. In 2010, the signal was replaced sometimes by excerpts from Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. And in 2014, the following conversation was heard. "Hello, hello, Vulcan. Hello, 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 Vulcan. Do not hear the... Who is there today? But we can hear it here. I don't know. Got it. Hello. And what are we going to do? Call them again? Okay, Masha, I'm standing by here for a while. And what was that channel number in Vulcan? Classification 312410. Once again, what was the number? 312410. Okay, I will write it down. Hello, hello, hello. Listen, can you check please about? And can you also check channel?" So this conversation, people interpret this as somebody was checking for the station, but they made a mistake and they were unable to monitor it. So they called the Vulcan is like some sort of military headquarters in Russia. So they called them to ask for it, but somehow the signals got crossed and got broadcasted instead.
Yeah, that definitely sounds legit right there as far as the conversation goes.
Yeah, so that's sort of how, but I mean, that's just one example of many conversations that have been captured throughout the years. The recordings of these conversations are hard to find. I was not able to really find them.
Well, even if you did, it would be in Russian, so.
Yeah, that's true. But you can actually find the excerpts of many, many of these. Like I said, there's a whole blog that just goes over just countless examples. I didn't even have time to read them all. There's so many of them. And like I said, we could do an episode on just the buzz station if we wanted to go over all of these things. And also because we're not even sure what they use this station for, although we are sure that they use it for some sort of Russian military stuff. What that is, we don't know. You know, we can only speculate. But there have been a couple of other unusual events on this particular station. Like in 2015, the station broadcasts an RTTY signal, which is a radio teletype signal. It's kind of like an old school digital communication, and it kind of sounds like a fax machine or something. If you guys remember what fax machines sound like, or maybe like what the internet used to sound like when we had like our old 14K modems and stuff. In 2022, there have been some broadcasts of meme type songs like Gangnam Style, and they think that these are probably done by other stations, not by the Russian military, but who knows? I mean, they could be using Gangnam Style? I forget.
Gangnam Style.
Yeah. I mean, they could be using that
Gangnam
to
Style.
transmit a message. You never know. There's all sorts of stuff that happens on this station. It'll be a monotonous buzzing for hours, days, possibly even years on end. And then all of a sudden you'll hear something weird on there. And it's just a really, really strange station that they do use it for military stuff. And it does seem to be encoded messages, but it's not exactly like other number stations, and that's why some people don't really consider it to be a number station. The location of the transmitter has changed several times throughout the years. On one occasion, it was supposedly found at an abandoned military base in Prevaro by some urban explorers, and I don't know if it was still running or not. That was not explicit in the description, but I was thinking, like, how creepy would that be if they found the station and it was still there all by itself, just sort of running. And then once in a while you might have somebody walk by, and that's why you might hear some people, but it was in a remote area. So maybe that's why you don't hear people that often. I don't know. The whole thing is just pretty damn creepy to me anyways. There's a couple other stations that are somewhat similar to this called the Pip and the Squeaky Wheel. I didn't really prepare audio samples for those because they're somewhat similar, and there's other stuff that I wanted to get to, and I didn't, I was worried I'd run out of time with that. But those urban explorers, I'm pretty sure it's the urban explorers, but again, the stuff I found online was not explicit about this, but somebody actually found a logbook from the abandoned base, from the station, the Buzz, and it's online. I've actually found like a PDF or a scan of the logbook, but it's in Russian, so I can't read it, and it's handwritten and in Russian, and I couldn't find any translation of it, and I just found it like an hour ago when I was just sort of tidying up my notes and finalizing stuff, so I didn't really have much time to search for more information on it. But if anybody is out there wants to look into it, there's you can find this out there. You can actually find the logbook, which is pretty insane.
Any Russian listeners?
Yeah, or somebody who speaks Russian at the very least and can read messy handwriting, because it had a bunch of numbers and some stuff written in messy handwriting and stuff. Pretty damn cool, and I wish I had more time to peruse it. Maybe toss it through Google Translate.
Oh, right.
see what it spits out.
That should be super accurate.
Just as classified.
It's
in Russian.
Sometimes they'll put stuff through Google Translate, and it is just absolutely hilarious, the results you get. And if you really want to try a fun exercise, put something from English, translate it like a paragraph from English, translate it to a different language, and then translate it back to English. That's fun. All right. So that's all I had for the Buzz. All right. The next one I have prepared here is, so I tried to get ones. There's a lot of them that sound quite a lot like the Lincolnshire thingamajig, but they'll play a song or have like a little attention getting thing, and then they'll read numbers, usually numbers in sets of 5. And then maybe some code words or whatever. But I tried to find some that are maybe a little bit different. And this next one is very, very different. This is the Yosemite Sam station. Did you guys?
Oh, I love the Yosemite. That's my favorite one, dude.
Oh, yeah. So,
oh, yeah, dude.
The phrase that you're going to hear is, "Varmint, I'm going to blow you to smithereens." And it's from a 1949 cartoon called Bunker Hill Bunny. So here we go. This one's actually really, really short, but here it is.
I'm gonna blow you out of smithereens. I'm gonna blow you out of smithereens.
That doesn't sound secretive at all. That just sounds silly, like pirate radio or something.
So do you hear that sort of staticky sound before he starts talking?
Yeah.
That's a data burst. They think that that's sort of like a digital encoded data burst before you hear the varmint, I'm going to blow you to smithereens. So this one appeared on December 19th, 2004, and it would broadcast on 4 frequencies spaced apart by 10 seconds. So it would broadcast on one, then another, and so on. And each transmission starts with that sort of data burst, that like staticky kind of a sound. And then you hear the Yosemite Sam. The signal stopped in like 2005, and they think it's because 2 amateur radio hams, that's people who are into ham radio or amateur radio, they call them hams. So 2 hams tracked down the signal to a military base in New Mexico. And then apparently when they did that and put it online and identified it, they stopped broadcasting it.
Well, they didn't only just do that. They actually went to the site and took pictures too.
Yeah.
And then they claimed that 3 hours after that, or 3 or 4 hours after that, that's when the signal stopped.
Yeah. Oh,
because they
really?
actually got confronted by like a security guard.
Okay. So they didn't actually, it stopped right away. It didn't stop after they published it on Reddit or something. That's all there is to that one. There's not really a whole lot known about it. Most of these number stations, we don't know a whole lot about them. And some of them, we don't even know where they're broadcasting from. Although it is possible to triangulate the broadcasting location. But if they do stuff to hide where it's being broadcast from, it's not always easy to find them. All right. So the next one I have is called Ready, Ready. And this is more of a basic one, but it just kind of sounded creepy to me. So I just wanted to include this one, but here it is.
1 5 7 2 8 1 5 7 2 8 1 5 7 2 8 1 5 7 2 8 1 5 7 2 8 1 5 7 2 8 1 5 7 2 8 Ready, ready, 3 5 3 5 0 0 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 1 5 3 5 3 5 5 3 5 3 5 2 1 7 9 3 2 1 7 9 3 6 5 8 6 6 6 5 8 6 6.
Now, there's a couple of things about this particular one. So first of all, I think the reason why it seems so creepy to me is because the woman sounds like she's in some kind of distress. Although I'm pretty sure it's like a synthesized voice. It's not a real woman reading it, but the voice sounds like it's in sort of like in a state of distress or panic or something, right? Like it's not a calm reading tone. She's reading it like, I don't know. That's just how it sounds to me. Also, I don't know if you were able to hear, but there's sort of like these digital signals in the background. It could be static or interference, but there's also like these.
I doubt it.
These beeps that sound like it could be like a digital signal that's being sent along with the message, which is like, I don't know, just that one just sort of like kind of weird. You know, it's just very strange sounding to me. They're not sure where this one is broadcast from, maybe Bulgaria, Italy, or United States are some of the ideas. And it uses the same frequencies as a different Bulgarian number station, which is why they think it might be from a Bulgarian station. Other than that, they don't really know a whole lot about it. It stopped broadcasting in 1999, and I couldn't find when it started, but a lot of these started in the 70s. So I'm going to guess 70s.
Out of like all the different number of stations that I've listened to and stuff, and also understanding the history of it as well, I have a hard time believing that most things on these stations are by chance, or you know what I mean? I think because they seem to be very specific. A lot of these transmissions are at specific times as well of the day. And also like, you know, they change, you know, throughout the day according to where the ionosphere is as well, because, you know, it's, the ionosphere is higher, from what I understand, during the daytime as it is than it is during the nighttime. Is that correct, or is it opposite?
Yeah,
but I know that they changed
the ionosphere is the highest when the sun is overhead.
Okay, yeah. So it expands with heat, right?
Yeah,
basically
with the sunlight. Yeah,
and so
it has to do with like has to do with like electrical
to put it in
charging.
layman's terms, right?
Yeah, I think it has to do with like the charging of it, not necessarily the heat. I think.
Oh, okay. I think I kind of just assumed that then.
Yeah.
But anyways, but I was still kind of I'm on the right track here, right? So they have to change the kilohertz in which they're transmitting some of these messages according to what time of the day it is, and that's why some of these channels that you hear about will change kilohertz throughout the day because they're changing with the ionosphere, right?
Yeah, and even like sunspot activity, and I mean, there's all kinds of things that can affect radio propagation. It's just tons and tons of stuff, and you could have 1 minute you could hear somebody from the other side of the planet, and then the next minute you can't hear anybody at all. Like it's pretty crazy how complicated it can get. Let's get to the next number station here. I think I only have 2 more number stations that I got queued up here. This one is called the Tyrolean, Tyrolean. How would you pronounce that?
Targaryen?
Tyrolean. I think so. The Tyrolean music station. So I'll play it first, and then I'll talk about it. So this one is number 8.
This is great.
Achtung. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And
Zero.
Zero.
That's not how they say
Lots of rolling.
Yeah.
I heard Achtung. That's attention.
And guten Tag. Die Größen 26.
Yeah, that's just excerpts from like a much, much longer recording. Cause this one, actually, where would you guess this station was from?
Germany.
That's what they're trying to get you to think. But this was apparently a French station.
Really?
Operated by the Service des whatever, I can't pronounce French.
Whatever in French.
They're espionage people or whatever, right? And it was started in the 1970s, and they broadcast on Saturday and Sunday. And the message addressed, I don't know if you could hear in that it's kind of hard to understand, but they would address agents with German names. And that's kind of like to fool them to think that it's not from France, and to kind of think that, okay, they're talking to somebody from Germany, so it must be like a German thing, but it's not. It was like a French thing. In 1975, an article was published about the station in a French magazine called Interferences. And at that, when they published that, I guess somehow they figured out that the station was in France, and then they ratted on them, I guess, the magazine. So I guess these journalists, they'll do anything for a buck or for a click or whatever, even back then. So in 1975, the station stopped broadcasting because, the cat was out of the bag, basically. But it used a communist anthem and Tyrolean and German folk music, and that's why it's called the Tyrolean station, because that's the style of music it used or whatever. And it used so what it would do is it would play that folk music for like 10 minutes, and then they would have a carrier that would stay up but was unmodulated for about 15 minutes. So it would just be like, basically a blank signal. And then the first few notes of the communist anthem, the Internationale or whatever, was played on a music box, and I played a little excerpt of that. and that would loop for 4 minutes, and then a sped up version for 1 minute. And then several German names were announced, and then 5 number codes were read, starting with Achtung. So, those very similar. A lot of these use a sequence of 5 number codes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 8, 1, 2, 5, or whatever, 5 groups of 5. And then it would end with Enda. And this was a really clever way of hiding the station's origins, to do it in German instead of like French or something. But this station was sort of like less sophisticated, I guess. They had a lot of frequent mistakes, such as like tapes being accidentally rewound and technical glitches, clicks, coughing, and other things that went on that were sort of not good. And I guess the way that they were able to determine it was from France is because even though it was read in German, they could tell that it was like somebody with a French accent was doing the reading. So it was pretty obvious, So a clever attempt, but maybe not all that well executed. But they would use, in addition to numbers, they would sometimes use coded messages. So for example, here's a translated coded message that they used on one occasion. Helmut greets Franz. Good day. The size 26 to 32 fits me well. The sun is shining marvelously. Our hen is about to lay an egg. All is good. Until I hear from you again, goodbye. So it's like this strange coded message that it's just like random stuff that if you heard that out on the frequencies, it would be very clear that that's not a normal communication. You wouldn't know what it was. You would just know that, okay, well, that's not normal, But I don't know if you guys heard of that particular number station, but there are so many of these. I sort of got lost looking at them. I didn't even know which ones to choose for this show. I just kind of picked some. At some point, you just have to do that. But I mean, there's so many really, really interesting ones. I have one more to share with everybody, and that would be the NNN station. And this one is part of a family of stations, probably run by the Austrian HNA. And we're not 100% sure about that, but that's what the sleuths who look into this thing, that's what they believe. And it was transmitted on weekly schedules, but only one message per month. It became inactive in 1997, and I couldn't find when it started. So some of these, they're not really sure when they started. It's not, the documentation for that is not really available, at least that I could find. Others, it is. But anyways, here we go. That's what this one sounds like, is this.
Group 70. Group 70. 6288 66288 13297 13297 60318 60318 26319 26319 37842 37842 801208.
Yeah, even knowing what they are, it's creepy.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
78362.
That one goes on and on, but yeah, probably the Lincolnshire poacher is maybe the creepiest one. Just the way she says the numbers, like 58397. It's like
it's just very robotic.
It's weird. It's just weird. And then some parts of it, she'll raise her voice for the last 2 digits, like 185 or 18569. Like instead of this is one of those topics where it's not really controversial in any way. Like we kind of know what these are for. They're for spies to send encoded messages. But it was just a really fun topic to look into. I just really enjoyed this one. And I'll put some links in the description, but there are lots and lots and lots of these things. There are tons of resources. You can find articles and blogs and papers written about it. You can find audio excerpts. there's a 4 CD set that's free to download and listen to if you want. What was that? What was the place
For
that
study music to help you sleep at night.
what was that called again?
For meditation.
Oh, it's the Conet. It's the
The Conet Project.
the Conet Project. That's it.
Yeah.
So I'll put some links to that stuff.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much cool stuff. This is one of those topics that it just never ends. Like, I kind of wish, I'm like, maybe I postpone this one a week, because I felt like I wanted to do another week of like reading into this stuff, because there's just so much to it. But I think at the end of the day, I think what we have gives you a really good idea of what it is. And if anybody wants to know more, it's just so easy to go find more, and even to go listen to them yourselves. You can find the schedules for the number stations online, and you can go onto one of these online receivers and you can go listen to them yourselves in real time. It's pretty awesome. So I guess that's pretty much all I had for number stations. What about you guys?
Such an interesting topic. I hadn't even heard of number stations before you told me about them.
They're fun.
Yeah.
Let's give a shout out to our live audience here. We got Murphy Donut Slayer, Unforgiven. I think it's Unforgiven Agent. It's Unforgiven AG ... Pimp Simpkins, or no, Simpkins. Pimp Simpkins.
Don't forget Yak.
Yep.
What's up, Yak?
Mr. Punk and Yak.
And I saw Agent Redacted earlier.
Oh, was he? Okay, Agent Redacted was here, and then Grayscaling was on here for a moment earlier. I saw him earlier, and there's a couple other people that came and went because they pop in. They probably can't listen to the whole thing, so they pop out. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate you showing up for the live show. And yeah, so I guess that's about all we have for you this week.
Keep it strange.